Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I am Talon, the Tech Merc, and today I'm coming at you guys with a guide about how to tear down and paint the bumpers and home button housing of the Xbox One wireless controller. So, without further ado, let's get right into this. So to kick things off here, we'll need a couple of materials. So first off, you'll want some kind of screwdriver, preferably one that has smaller tips. So I have this one right here. It's just a driver set. And what we're specifically looking for is the T8 Torx. So that is the size of the screws. And they do have a little bit of a weird thing going on with the screws. And I will talk about that a little bit later. And I do have a solution for that. So you'll need some kind of screwdriver kit with that bit in it. You'll also want some canned air. Now this is for when you get inside. You'll want to probably clean things out, especially if you've been using the controller for a while. There'll be kind of dirt and gunk and just nasty stuff in there. So I've got a can of canned air right here. And then finally, you'll need paint of your desired color and finish. So this is obviously what you're going to put on the bumpers and home button housing. So I'm going with blue here, so I'll have a little bit of a black and blue theme. And then finally, of course, you will need your Xbox One wireless controller. So now let's get into the teardown. So now that we are ready to tear things down, the first step will be to actually go around the back of the controller. And if you'll notice here, there are seams that run up and down each handle, and we will pop those off. Those are covers. So usually you would want a plastic pry tool or something like that to avoid damaging it too much. However, you can use a flathead screwdriver, and as long as you're being careful, you should be able to slip it right in these slots and take off the casing. So you will hear popping and cracking, and that's really normal. That's kind of what's supposed to happen. What it is the clips inside. There are plastic clips that hold this on, and that's just those clips coming undone. It's not damaging your controller, but do keep in mind to be gentle. So I'm going to go ahead and take off this side. So now that we have the grips off, we can remove the battery cover, remove any batteries if you have them in there, and then in here you will probably find a sticker laying right here where my finger is. I do not have mine in here because I have opened it before, and underneath that sticker is hiding a screw. So now that we have the two handle panels off, and we have the back battery panel off and that screw exposed, we can start taking off the screws, which are located here, 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 down in there, and then down in here. So you want to remove each of them individually. Now these are T8 security Torx screws. So they have a little pin in the middle that keeps you from using normal T8 Torx screwdriver bits. So what you can actually do is you can grab a small flat-headed screwdriver and you can wedge it in there between the two sides of the Torx screw. And sometimes, even if you're lucky, you'll be able to break off that middle post in there and use just a normal T8 Torx screwdriver. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so now we have gotten the screws off, and please note, these will be the only 5 screws that will be used during my teardown. I will have a teardown linked below to where you can desolder the rumble motors and things like that to go all the way down. However, for what I'm doing today, we don't need to go that far. So these will be the only screws you need, but it is still a good idea to keep them in a location where they won't be lost. So after you have these screws done, you can just lift off this back plate right here and put that to the side. Now this most likely on the inside will be very, very dirty. So this is where the compressed air will come into play to get all of just that gross gunk and hair and things off of that. So after we have the back plate off, we can actually turn the controller over and gently lift up the front plate. Now please note, if you are going to paint this part right here or this part right here, do so now. Also, please prep your surface before you do it, because if you have this rough texture and you paint over it, that paint will not sit correctly. So you want to prep your surface appropriately for the front cover as well as the back cover. So now we have the two grips off, the front plate and the back plate off, and all that is left for us to remove today will be the two bumpers and this home button housing. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to be careful of these rumble motors falling out, these right here. When you turn it over, they slide out of their slots. Just be careful that the wires don't tear off of their solder points, and you should be fine. So now when we are back here, what we want to do is we want to lift up the front right here. You want to lift this up off of these two pegs right there and there. You want to lift up, press the home button, and just apply force, tilting it backwards, and it will snap off like this. So of course you'll want to keep this nearby. I will be painting that. So now we have the bumpers. The left and right bumpers are attached individually on this controller. However, if you look at something like the Xbox One Elite controller, you can actually find components that will have this entire part bundled together. So it will be both bumpers and the home button housing all in one piece when you put it on. But as far as we are going today, we just need to lift up against these pins right here and right there on each individual bumper. So there's a back pin and a front pin, and you will want to lift up the front one and then get the back one first and then the front one. I found that way to work easier. So back pin, it also helps to hold the trigger down so it doesn't get in your way. So back pin first, and then it should slide right off of the front pin. So keep track of which one is the right and which one is the left. If you have stock components, it will say RB and LB for left and right bumpers respectively. However, if you have any aftermarket parts, they may not say that. So now we are ready to paint. All right, so what I have right here is my makeshift painting booth. Sorry about the lighting and the audio here. It's kind of just a makeshift area. However, what you can do, like I did, is grab an old trifold poster from a presentation, one of your kids' presentations, someone you know or something like that. You can even go to the store and pick one up, and it's perfect because it's got two walls, it's got the back, so you're not spraying on your walls or anything like that. And then also on the ground here, I have some foam mats. So this just prevents my carpet and my walls from getting spray paint all over them. You can do something like this outside so the smell isn't as strong. However, doing it inside like this is fine. Just make sure you have some way to get the fumes out. Okay, so now we are ready to prep our 3 parts for painting. So 2 things that I forgot in the materials list is you'll want some kind of tape that you can remove easily. Don't use duct tape, and do not use any kind of glue. Also, you will want to find some kind of string or yarn or something thin that you can hang these pieces from. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to grab one end of whatever string you have and tape it or tie it through these holes right here and be able to hang it from a suspended area. That way that you don't have any uneven painting on the outside or any finger marks from moving it around, and it can dry evenly. So you'll want to do this with each of the components. Okay, so after the pieces that we're painting are on the strings, I have attached them to this clothesline looking thing inside of my booth. So this will allow them to hang. I can move these strings like this to get a fuller coverage of the item I am painting, and they will be able to dry a little bit better this way and not to interfere with anything on the ground or your fingers by directly touching the pieces. So another thing to keep in mind is to evenly apply your coats of paint. So you don't want any parts to be thicker than others. Obviously, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you're doing a custom thing like I am, it won't matter too much to me, but if you're doing it, try to get it as even as possible. Alright, so my components have dried. They turned out pretty well. However, I will say if you guys are following along in this project, just to make sure that your paint dries evenly. I did have several spots that had kind of globby areas. You can see right here in this corner that there's a little bit of a paint bump right there. So just make sure that your paint dries evenly. But other than that, I really enjoyed this project. It's been fun, and I'm going to show you guys the reassembly process really quickly. So you're going to want to start with the home button housing, and you go back to front, and it just slots on right there like that. And then you go each bumper. So this is the right bumper, and you'll want to just slide it behind the button right there. So you'll just want to go right like that and snap that right into place. And then you'll do the same exact thing on the other side. Snap it right back into place, and boom, bumpers are on, home button housing is on. And now we just stick this in the back housing first. So you'll set it right here in this housing. Make sure that everything sits flat and that the bottom port here matches up, lines up. You'll feel it when it clicks into place. Then you will want to grab your faceplate and then stick it right back on over that right there like this. Now I will say, when you're putting the back on, make sure you can still pull both triggers. Sometimes it will get caught on some plastic in there, so just make sure that each trigger can be pulled and they feel right. So after that, you're going to want to grab your screwdriver again, and then your screws, and then put them back in the appropriate holes. So I'm going to do that really quickly. All right, and then once all of your screws are in, you're going to want to take these side grips, and then you will just snap them right back onto the appropriate places. And put your back cover and batteries on, and here we go. I have modded and customized my own Xbox One wireless controller, and you guys can do this too. Keep in mind also, you can paint other parts. You can take off the triggers, you can take off the sync button, you can paint these grips on the back. Whatever you want to do, you can do that. But I've overall enjoyed this project. It wasn't too difficult to do, but that will do it for this video. If you guys have any questions about my process or any tips that you guys have found during your disassembly and reassembly process, please comment down below. I will be down there answering all of the questions that I can. But that will do it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.